Hey nerds! Sages here. So unfortunately my review of Fire Emblem Warriors will not be out probably until this weekend, which kind of sucks, but hey, that's just how it is. However, since we're here and it's now officially out, as you can see I'm actually playing the English version here, and I've had about a month to play the Japanese release, I can kind of give an idea of if you should buy it or not, or just give you a little bit of a rundown of my opinions on if you should or not. I don't know if that's valid at all, or if you guys really care, but hey, let's just give it a shot and see what you guys think, okay? So, what you're going to be seeing here is mostly the start of the game in English, because, well, I didn't want to include any of the spoiler content or any of the later stages, which are kind of interesting. So instead, enjoy the tutorial. Still, nonetheless, let's talk about Warriors. So, I'm just going to say this straight out. If you have played a Warriors game, you're probably going to be pretty familiar with how this works. And I mean, if you were to describe this, I would just say it's Warriors with a new coat of paint, in a sense. It's a lot more like Hyrule Warriors, where Hyrule Warriors, typically what that was a point-to-point kind of thing. You know, missions would spawn on the map, you do them until eventually it leads to the end of that stage. Which is kind of different from the normal Warriors dynamic, where usually you go from base to base and you kind of move your way through the map, taking out enemies and all that fun stuff. Instead, it's more based on Hyrule Warriors. In fact, a lot of the things that are in this game remind me a lot of Hyrule Warriors, which is both good and bad. Mostly, it just feels like you're running around doing certain things when missions pop up, you're killing a bunch of enemies, you're using your specials, the characters you enjoy, and based on the story mode, you know, whatever is allotted to you. And it's a lot of fun. It's your typical hack and slash. If you played any Warriors game at all, you will feel right at home. You just mash a bunch of enemies into the ground, kill them all. It's pretty satisfying in its own way. And of course, they have a wide selection of characters. All of them are varied in some ways, but, you know, there are a few clone movesets, which, of course, you know, a lot of people were hamming out. They were going crazy about it, I should say. But, well, if you're a Warriors fan, or you know, are new to any sort of these kind of games when it comes to this, I have to say, well, clone movesets are kind of a normal thing. Granted, all the characters that are cloned, they tend to have their own little special abilities here and there, from their, you know, special Musu attacks to their awakened modes and things like that. Typically, you see a little bit of variance, so it's not too terrible when it comes down to that. Outside of that, the gameplay can be pretty redundant, and you will be doing a lot of the same things over and over again on a variety of maps. And while some people might find that exciting, I can safely say that can be a bit, well, annoying. It's not exactly something that you may want to play in long stretches. I'm sure, for me, I actually really like Warriors games, so I could probably go for quite a bit, but some people might get bored pretty easily after you've, you know, gone through the first few stages and you're like, oh, so this is it. And I hate to say it, but like, if you played Hyrule Warriors and you know, you get the basic system out of that, you have probably already basically played everything that's in Fire Emblem Warriors, because, well, the stun gauge from that is here. The weapon triangle, although it's, you know, touting it to be much approved, you know, like it is in a Fire Emblem game, it's essentially what would be from other Dynasty Warriors games or other Samurai Warriors games where, you know, certain weapons beat certain other units, the stun gauge appears, etc., etc. That's been something that has popped up in previous games, and they're just basically taking that and tuning it into a Fire Emblem aesthetic. And while that's cool and all, you know, occasionally if you're using a bow and you find a flying unit, you'll absolutely destroy them, because that's something that actually happens in, you know, Fire Emblem games. But outside of that, there's really, you know, just not too much that's changed from a Warriors game, and if you don't really find that too exciting, I really can't recommend it for you. If you don't really enjoy this type of game, it's not something for you. And I hate to say that, but, you know, outside of, well, the story, which admittedly I skipped quite a bit in the Japanese because, well, I really didn't care enough. The story is just basically meant to be a bit of a, you know, kind of fan service plot. You go from, you know, one stage, from one locale in one game to another, to another, to another. You meet characters along the way. You know, create your own personal army with all of these, you know, all-stars from previous games, and then you just keep going, and eventually you get to the end. I don't want to spoil it, but it's, you know, not something terribly creative. It's serviceable for a Fire Emblem game, I guess. But all in all, story is not really where it matters. It mostly matters in gameplay, and yeah, gameplay's fun, but I can't really recommend it too much when it comes to people who don't really enjoy that kind of, you know, all-in-all out brawl, in a sense. So, would I recommend Fire Emblem Warriors to you? Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it, but I can safely say that it just, if you have experienced any other Warriors game at all, and, you know, you enjoyed that, and, you know, you don't feel like maybe you can have much here, then I'd say skip it. Because, honestly, it is essentially just another Warriors game with a new paint job. And that's kind of unfortunate. I was hoping they would, like, elevate it a bit further from that. They do have a few things like supports and, you know, stats and all that other stuff where your character will level up and, you know, things like that will come and go, but it really doesn't seem to change too much. On harder difficulties, things get, you know, hard, but really it doesn't seem to alter too much for your characters. You know, they have the whole weapon system from Fire Emblem, you know, A, B, C, all those rankings, but that's mostly just you toss money into that slot and it unlocks for them. It's not something like, you know, more like Fire Emblem. It's just basically a skill tree, just like, well, a lot of other Warriors games out there. And, well, that's all I can really say. If you're a fan of Fire Emblem and you want to try something new, I'd say give it, you know, give Warriors a shot. It might be fun, it might be worthwhile for you. But if you're not into it and you don't think this would be something you would be really fascinated by, it's not something that's a must-buy, honestly. It does what it needs to do. It's a serviceable adaptation for fan service and for those who like Fire Emblem, and maybe some who may enjoy Warriors and, you know, want a new Warriors game entirely, so have at it there. This is just my general idea. I can safely say it's a big maybe for me when it comes to buying it. Personally, since I'm a Warriors fan, I did, but still, even then, it's kind of middling at times. So I just figured I would tell you that, and that's my basic consensus on Fire Emblem Warriors, at least if you should buy it. I will have a full review a little bit later, a little bit more structured, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this. For now, I'm gonna hop off. Catch y'all later.